guys, welcome back to PHT TV. Last week, Corey gave us some insight on what it was like to be a dealer during the pandemic and what it's like here in the aftermath. Before that, I jumped into our first review of the PerListen gear that we've been unboxing, and I did a 2.0 and a 2.1 listening. This week, I've got the full 5.1 channel home theater setup hooked up, and as promised, we're gonna watch some Dolby demos, we're gonna check out some movies, listen to some music, and even play some video games to get the full experience on what these guys are capable of and what they'll provide in the home theater environment. That said, if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button below and click the little bell next to it to enable notifications. Not only will this let you know as soon as new videos release and as soon as the new season starts, but it will also be the first step to put you in the running for many of our giveaways and contests that we have here on PHT TV. First off, what is powering these guys? So to start, the source. All content today will be either coming from my laptop or my PlayStation. From there, they go on to the Nhra M17 V2i through HDMI. Next to the Parasound Halo A52 Plus through XLR, and then out to the speakers. Now, I was super impressed with the 2-channel and the 2.1 channel setup from before, so I'm really excited to hear what it sounds like when we throw the surrounds and the center channel into the mix. Just like before, I'll be taking notes along the way, and I'll be back with more details and thoughts. I'll see you guys again here shortly. Okay, so you may notice that I am in a completely different outfit than I was 10 seconds ago. After the Dolby demos, I realized very quickly that this was not going to be a single day listening experience for this review. These are intense speakers. This is an intense system, so I wanted to hear full-length movies from multiple genres. I wanted to bring my wife and kids into the studios and share the experience with them. I wanted to do intense video game sessions, and I wanted to lose myself in the music, and I did all that. Here we are 1 week later, and these are going to be my thoughts after spending an entire week with this system. Before going any further, I'm going to put the obligatory spoiler alert below. Even though the newest movie we will be discussing is still several years old, it seemed necessary. So, let's start with the demo content. I've watched every demo on the Dolby disc. Not just the movie trailers, but every clip. Every sort of music, every game demo. These things just seem to pull you in, and I just wanted more, so I just kept going. As expected, adding the center channel was huge compared to the 2-channel setup, as it always is. Dialogue was more in your face, it was front stage, crisp, clear, and cranking that volume knob did not change that at all. It's still super crisp at intense volumes, and even on the opposite end of the spectrum, turning the volume knob way down did not hugely alter the experience, which I was super surprised at. Aside from the sub no longer shaking the building's foundation, at whisper volumes, I was still able to hear all of the subtleties of every track. The typical issue with lower volumes is that woofer really can't get moving, so lower frequencies usually suffer from the lower volume output. But with the super lightweight materials used in the creation of these speakers, the drivers are able to bring their A game at every level. The materials used are the same throughout the system in the mains and the surrounds. So ultra lightweight with beryllium and TPCD. If you want to hear more about these guys, go back to the S7t unboxing video for more in-depth discussion about these materials. In addition to the lightweight nature of these, the fact that they are all the same components throughout the system makes for a continuous tonality and perfect timbre matching. One specific component in the demos that grabbed my attention and that I watched multiple times was the ocean scenes. If you have the Dolby demo disc at home and want to know exactly the specific track that I'm talking about, it's called The Wild. One of my favorite things to demo are those of outdoor environmental sounds and experiences, oceans and surfing in particular. There's just so much to listen for, and it plays to every speaker and every frequency. The waves coming to a peak and then crashing, the air, the calm winds in the background. The whole idea of a home theater and of movie theaters is to give you this full experience, to make you feel like you are living in their world. I can tell you with all honesty that this is exactly what these provided for me. It's not just hearing what the characters or artists have to say or sing or do. It's taking it to that next level and making the experience feel like they are speaking directly to you. Like the song was made for you to listen to, or in this case, like you're out there in the ocean. I was lost in these demos. Now, I'm not going to discuss the movie trailers as we watched full-length movies, so it'd be kind of pointless. Let's talk about those later instead. One other note that I did have from the Dolby demo disc, though, is the Nhra Demo. And the reason I bring this up is that just the day before watching this demo, I had gone to the track. It was pretty intense. I saw some crazy fast times, and the sound is like nothing else. Your body's rumbling with the revs, the adrenaline rush at the takeoff. I love it. All that said, sitting in the studio the next day, I was right back there at the track. The lights out, the volume up, I was there again. That feeling in my chest, that rumble from the engine revs, even the adrenaline rush was created by it all. I can't say that it's unlike anything I've ever heard, because it is. It's exactly what I've heard. Not through the system though, it's like what I heard being there in person the day before. The only thing missing was the sweat and the sunburn, and honestly, they weren't really missed. It was almost a better experience sitting in my chair watching this on the screen. Cars are a good segue into my first feature-length movie. The first full-length movie that I watched was the original Fast and Furious, and I chose this mainly for two different reasons. The first is I've watched this movie a ridiculous number of times since it was originally released 20 years ago. So I know what it sounds like. I've seen it in a car, I've seen it in a theater, on TV speakers, in a home theater, on headphones, in a box, with a fox, on a train. You get the idea. So I know exactly what it's supposed to sound like. The other primary reason is cars. There are certain things in a home theater that make or break your experience. There are some things that'll sound halfway decent on almost any system, on TV speakers, really anything. Those are not the things that we're looking for. Cars, guns, explosions. With a good system, these things will make all the difference. With an awesome system, these things will blow you away, and I've got to say I was truly blown away. One thing that I did notice in particular was background dialogue. While I could hear everything I normally could hear, I was surprised to find that I heard things that I've never heard before, and that's pretty impressive for a 20-year-old movie that I've seen 1,000,001 times. This didn't really change the movie for me so much, but it was interesting that after seeing this movie so many times, I guess I still hadn't seen the whole thing to a degree. Now, moving forward, I'm going to assume that everyone has seen this movie before, and if not, go watch it. I'm going to try and be quick as well, as we do have a lot of ground to cover. The three scenes that jump out to me the most are before the big race, Brian landing a date with Mia in the kitchen, and race wars. And these all kind of jump out to me for the same reason. In each of these scenes, I could almost make out complete conversations happening in the crowd or in the background while the main scene is taking place. The ability to differentiate between the primary conversation and the background noise, but still make out legible conversation, really stood out to me. It kind of sets a more complete stage while you're watching. Now, in the spirit of trying to keep things short, the only other item that I'll mention before we move on to the next movie is the takeoff on the first race. There's an animation of the sequence of events from the car going into gear all the way to the squealing of the tires. Now, the change in tone throughout, engaging all of the speakers in the set, hitting high frequencies without issues, while simultaneously balancing the lows with nothing lacking on any end of the spectrum. These guys, they were just killing it. I had the same notes from Race Wars as well as from the truck heist and the final chase scenes. So consistent, awesome, and amazing throughout the entirety of the movie. Now for the next movie, I brought my entire family into the studio to watch WALL-E. Now considering this movie is primarily designed for kids, I'm always amazed by how much effort went into the sound production and how great it is in that regard. My first note here was that all of the audio in the beginning is present, but subtle. It's not designed to blow your eardrums or shake the building. It's seemingly purposefully designed in a way that could convey the feeling of relaxed. Even when dramatic and a lot is going on, you still feel relaxed inside. And while this is mostly a note about the movie, the system needs to have the ability to convey this attitude, this state of relaxation. The speakers do this by removing any aspect of reality from your environment, having a clean system, having minimal distortion, having the ability to reproduce the sound and only the sounds intended by the creator. It pulls you away from your world and places you into this new one. I was entranced for a while, and my next set of notes actually didn't come until about halfway through the movie as the plot thickens. After Eve is taken back to the ship, everything is a bit more intense. It's not this relaxed Earth environment anymore. It's a spaceship, and you start to get the nervous feeling. You start to get a bit anxious as things are out of place. You are out of place with this movie. These speakers are able to convey this perfectly, and still as the mood shifts and everything is changing all around, they allowed me to stay completely engaged in the movie, which is the goal of home theater. The last note that I have from this movie is actually two separate scenes that involve room noise. The first is when Wally enters a room that's completely empty, except for this little finger thing typing away on a keyboard, just clicking away. Every click you hear perfectly in front of you. And then you hear it echo off the wall behind you and sustain for a moment. And not only did this give me the feeling of being in the room there with Wally, but it was detailed enough to where I could almost hear what the materials in the room were made of. I could feel exactly where I was in the room based on the time that it took the click to echo off the rear wall. And this was just a level of detail that literally dropped my jaw. It was amazing. Now finally, the last movie that I watched was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I saved this for last as it's the most recent and it has a bit of everything included, from guns to vehicles to explosions to music, a little bit of everything. And my first note was actually on the music. If you've seen this movie, you know it is hugely driven by the music and by the soundtrack. The mixtape that his mother gave him pulls it all together and sets the tone throughout. These speakers were able to amazingly reproduce what I believe to be exactly what the production team had in mind. A perfect balance of epic orchestra, this track list, the great dialogue, the guns, the fights, the explosions, all perfectly blended together so that not a single beat or a single joke is missed. Next, but possibly the most important note on my list, was the silence. While many people do reviews of speakers and they discuss their crazy systems, how loud they get and so forth, one key element some fail to mention is the quiet moments. In this particular movie, it's used super well. There are three scenes in particular that come to mind. The first scene that I have in my notes is after the first big battle and the first big crash. There's this epic battle going on and they fall into this planet and everything goes silent. Silence is used here to contrast the battle and the crash, as well as to contrast the ship falling apart immediately afterwards. Next in my notes is a scene during the ending battle. Now this is possibly one of my favorite moments in the movie as it's perfect in every way. I'll call this scene, "Do You Have Any Tape?" Now, an epic battle is going on around them. They are inside of a crater arguing about tape so that Rocket can mark the death button as bad so Groot won't push it. Well, it's not a complete silence. The battle is muted due to their surroundings. It's still heard in the background and you're still aware that this epic battle is taking place, but it's perfectly designed and constructed in a way that you fully understand the necessity of the conversation at hand and are momentarily distracted from the battle. The way that this scene is conveyed, it's like when they're trapped inside a crater, you can actually feel the full stage because you feel that you are in the crater with these guys, but you're kind of in a safe spot, kind of in the eye of the storm, and it's just a really, really cool feeling and really well done, really well put together. Now, my last note on this is in the same battle. The final turning point where Peter has to push back or be defeated. It goes from an epic battle noise to a single tone. A quiet ring, almost a ringing in his ears. He thinks of his friends and his family, and a sad moment, and the tone kind of builds and then turns into quiet music, then some dialogue, then back to louder music and an epic battle. As mentioned above, distortion or any kind of noise, it kind of takes you out of this experience. It reminds you that this is a fictional scenario. On the other hand, if the movie is well recorded, well produced, it allows you to spend your time fully engrossed. It allows you to lose yourself in this storyline and live in a different universe, if only for a period of time. And I don't know about you guys, but with my home theater, that is exactly what I'm looking for. And with these speakers, I get to have that experience. And with this, I was able to be lost from beginning to end. Now please note that these speakers are not alone in the reproduction, and they cannot create this experience alone. I do have some pretty intense and super clean power coming through, so let's not forget that every component plays its part, and it's very important to ensure everything is clean from your source to the processing, to the amps, and to the speakers. That said, this entire PerListen system definitely plays its part as the star player of the team. After these movies, I dove into some deep audio listenings. It was great as expected, but as this video is already getting pretty long and we discuss music in the 2.1 experience, I'm just gonna say go back to the previous for more on music. In that video, we also discussed the playlist that we used and the items that we test speakers with, so be sure to check that out if you haven't seen it already. Last but certainly not least, we dove into some video games. For this, I wanted to choose two. One more traditional style game, and one that you wouldn't expect improved performance on from a system. In the more conventional game, I kind of wanted something that would utilize a full system, and for this I chose Fallout 4. If you've only ever played games on a standard system or a two-channel system or standard TV sound, you are definitely missing out. Now, having at least 5 channels not only improves the experience by putting you right there in the center of the action, but it also helps in that shooter or battle game scenarios where you can actually tell which direction you're being attacked from by listening to the sounds around you. The better the system, the more accurate this becomes, as every detail, every footstep can be heard. Guns, explosions, dialogue, it all sounded great just like it did in the movies, and I felt as though it improved my ability to distinguish even better than previous where attacks were coming from, where I needed to focus my attention. Now, I'm not sure that this detail is what provided this additional ability to locate, or if I was just more immersed in the environment causing these improvements in play, but either way, I felt an overall distinguishable difference in my performance and in my gameplay. So, super cool. The final game test and the final test altogether that I ran was with a less conventional style game for this 5.1 kind of system. I chose Oddworld. I wanted something that wouldn't change my gaming abilities by adding surrounds, or so I thought. That was the idea anyways. The idea behind this was that it's more two-dimensional. In front of you and behind you is actually left and right, akin to that of early Mario and those style games. No enemies attack you from out of sight, and I'm not going to have better ability to play because of my speakers. Well, this part was pretty much true. I didn't perform any better than previous. I did actually have a better experience as a whole playing this game with this system than with the system that I typically play on. It kind of gave a lifelike experience from a game that's anything but realistic in really any way. Now, I can't end this video without listing some cons. Now, I tried. I pushed these and I was not able to find an issue performance-wise. I was only able to find 2 things that I can really think of at all. The first of which is price. These are designed to be monster systems, and a monster theater system in your home is going to cost a little bit. As such, the price is going to be intimidating for some. But with the quality packed into every detail and every aspect of this system though, I feel like it is priced pretty well for the level of performance that it achieves. The only other negative aspect that I can provide at this moment is the lack of available options for Atmos. That said, for a brand new company bringing so much to the table, you can't really fault them for this. You can't exactly offer everything right out of the gates. Now, my prediction for the future is that they will break into this market and they will kill it there as well. I can't wait. I personally can't wait to try those out in the future. As a short synopsis, amazing detail, lifelike performance in music, movies, games, everything. Awesome experience at any level from ear splitting to whisper quiet. I genuinely felt pulled into a new universe in every single test that I gave. I became a character in each sequence. As I said, the key in a movie theater is to capture the audience, to provide a level of performance that takes you out of your chair and puts you into the car, into the spaceship, into the concert. To have this level, this experience in my own home, in your own home theater, is simply amazing. That's it for today, guys. I'm gonna listen to these for a bit longer before I have to send them back. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below and leave us a comment to let us know what you've liked so far and what you'd like to see more of going forward into the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you again next week for a brand new episode of PHT TV. I'm gonna try that one more time. one more time, cause I suck and I don't know how to talk. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to talk. The last note that I have from this movie